Okay, so this is Understanding How AI Agents Work, a complete beginner's guide to understanding AI agents and utilizing AI for your business. So we're going to go over understanding what actually is an LLM, why does it give the certain responses that it gives, prompt engineering, troubleshooting, so that when you go in and create these AI agents for yourself, you'll be able to understand, okay, this is why it gave this response as opposed to this response. So let's get straight into it. So what makes these LLMs so special? Why does ChatGPT know everything about the internet? Now, I did cut out a slide before this, which is why it says LLM continued, just because there was a little bit of a history behind ChatGPT. But I mean, we all understand ChatGPT, so we'll just cut straight to the good stuff. So the factors that actually enhance an LLM is one, the massive parameter sizes that are actually fed to these LLM architectures, and also the gigantic data sets that ChatGPT is fed off of. We're going to refer to ChatGPT quite a bit, just because everyone knows what that is. So the extensive data from diverse internet sources, which is how ChatGPT understands everything about the internet. So what makes LLMs so special is the ability to create new data, new understandings, and new meanings from their existing dataset catalog, as opposed to being hard-coded. An example would be a chef. So you can imagine that you have a chef who's been working at your restaurant for about 10 years now, and he knows over 1,000 different recipes, right? Like the back of his hand. When he's given a set of new fruits, vegetables, oils, whatever, when he's just given a bunch of ingredients that he's never seen before, he will be able to understand how to use those ingredients and create a new recipe. And that's essentially what an LLM does. You can give it a completely new set of data, a new set of questions and theories, and it'll use this existing data set to basically reference and create that new output, a new understanding. So the superpower of LLMs. So yeah, the scale, capabilities, and actual training process leads to emergent properties. So what actually are these emergent properties? Well, first we got to understand how these LLMs are actually created, and we're going to kind of reference node networks. So you can kind of imagine an LLM as this neural network information processor, where you have all of these little nodes that go from the left-hand side, the input, all the way to the right-hand side, the output. So for example, we have what is the capital of Australia. That input is fed to all of these nodes and is refined until we get the output. The capital of Australia is Canberra. So we have our input reception, so nodes receive and process input data. Data processing, so nodes apply mathematical functions to data. And output transmission. Processed output is passed to the next node. Oh yeah, and by the way, forgive me, I'm terribly sick, but yeah, this video should still be good. So you can think of each node as its own mini mathematical function inside of an LLM, passing the data onto the next node until it reaches the output. We only see the input and output, but there's a lot happening under the hood. And yeah, that's kind of how you think of LLMs, right? LLMs are just a really complex mathematical function that is able to predict the next word in a sentence, right? That's all LLMs do, right? That's all ChatGPT does. So example, the difference between a poorly trained and a well-trained LLM. So for a poorly trained LLM, we give it this input of what is 1 plus 1. And the poorly trained AI agent gives us an output of 3, which is just not correct. However, with a well-trained LLM, what is 1 plus 1? It actually gives us the correct answer, 1 plus 1 equals 2. And we'll get into more advanced details, including weights, biases, forward and backwards propagation in later videos. So how are these words actually understood by LLMs? How does an AI and these LLMs understand the words we tell it? Because at the end of the day, it just reads these words as numbers. So how an LLM thinks and understands language is it takes these words that we understand and gives it a specific coordinate in this sort of vector database. And I've kind of illustrated a diagram on the right here to kind of show you like what's happening under the hood. So we can actually pull this up. And to keep it really simple, I've kept this in the third dimensional space, but we have 3 different words here that the LLM has been trained on. The word dog, the word cat, and the word house. Now, the word dog and cat are very close together in this vector database, simply because their semantic meaning or their similarity is very close. So the proximity of those 2 words, those 2 coordinates, is going to be very close. As opposed to the word house, which is not nearly as related to the word dog and cat, which is why it's further away. So, embeddings. So this is how the LLM gives meaning to words, because at the end of the day, we're working with computers, and these computers slash LLMs can only read these words as numbers and coordinates. So the way we give these words some life and meaning is through the use of vectorization. So what is vectorization? And don't worry, stick with me here, this isn't going to get too mathematically complex. It's the process of giving these words some sort of number, coordinate associated with it that the computer can understand within the vector space slash data space. Very easy, digestible stuff. So for this example, we are just working in the three-dimensional space, but these vector spaces can be thousands, if not tens of thousands of dimensions, which our brains cannot comprehend. However, computers can comprehend this, and it essentially just measures the similarity of words and sentences based on the word's proximity within the vector data space, as shown in the previous example. So the real question, how are these words actually given coordinates in the first place? Right, I kind of just showed you a graph with coordinates that already, were just given by the LLM. So if they don't know what the words mean in the first place, was it randomly assigned, etc.? And the answer is no. This is where we understand how these words are processed by LLMs in the form of tokens. So we showed you how these words get put inside of the vector data space, but now we're going to understand why it got put in that sort of arrangement. So what are tokens? Tokens are what the LLM reads as words or strings of letters that are categorized by a unique ID. And I've kind of put a link here for the actual platform. So let's check this out. Hopefully it'll work. Sweet, so this is the tokenizer. So we can actually learn about language model tokenization. So OpenAI's large language model processes text into tokens, which are common sequences of characters found in a set of text. These models learn to understand the statistical relationship between these tokens and excel at producing the next token in a sequence of tokens. And so we can use this tool and we can write the word, the dog ran over the cat. Actually, we'll start with a simple one. We'll just go dog. Right, and you can see here, the word dog is given as one token, 3 characters. Whereas, if I do, forgive me, I'm terribly sick, but the cat ran over the dog. And you can see here, this is actually 6 tokens. The cat ran over the dog. 6 tokens, 24 characters. Now, how are these actually given embeddings? Well, this is how. So each word, each token is given a unique token ID. And this is what the LLM uses to categorize and coordinate these tokens inside of the vector data space. And yeah, a helpful rule of thumb is that 1 token generally corresponds to 4 characters. So 100 tokens is about 75 words. So yeah, really cool stuff. That's how these LLMs actually read text, tokenize it, give it a ID, and then uses that ID to embed it inside of the vector data space. Sweet. So, why do we care about tokens? This is what LLMs measure as essentially a form of currency. They don't charge us with the number of words we use, but the number of tokens, IDs we give it. So you might have seen this before with AI and LLMs and GPTs, where it's like, hey, you have a max token threshold of like 8,000. It's like, well, what is a token? Is that a word? And it's like, no, it's not a word. And yeah, I kind of showed you the different models here. So if you ever see this, now you understand what that means. So with GPT-4o, the pricing is $2.50 for 1 million input tokens. GPT-4o mini is significantly less as expected. And then the new O1 model is $15. It's just insane. So going back to embeddings, there's one problem. So how does the LLM actually be able to distinguish words that sound similar but have completely different meanings? For example, the words cat and hat are very similar in terms of form and vocabulary, but their actual context and semantic meanings are completely different. This is why embedding is so powerful. They unlock the doors for these LLMs to understand these words semantically, and they're able to pack words closer together in the vector space based on semantic similarity and actual richness of the word based on the datasets fed into the LLM during initial training. So embedding model providers. So while there are many providers that have their own embedding models, we'll be sticking with OpenAI's embedding models. And yeah, there's 3 embedding models that OpenAI uses. It's text embedding 3 small, text embedding 3 large, and then Ada v2. Now, my personal favorite is text embedding 3 small. I think it's the best. Pages per dollar is 62,500, which is insane. It's got a really good performance, and yeah, the max input is 8,191 tokens. So these models have been pre-trained with token IDs into existing embeddings to capture its true and rich semantic meaning and understanding. So an example of this happening in action: a curious red squirrel dashed past the old oak tree. And this is kind of what I showed you beforehand, where each of these words is tokenized and given a unique token ID. And you can imagine that the embeddings, so the embedding model, will be able to take this token ID and be like, okay, yeah, the token ID 32 corresponds to this coordinate. The token ID 33,612 is this coordinate, etc., etc. So that's essentially what's happening with these embedding models. And yeah, this is what it would look like in the actual vector data space, where you have all these words and they're closed up based on semantic meaning and further away based on not semantic meaning. In real life, obviously this is just an example, but these coordinates would span much greater than just 3 dimensions. So yeah, I did show you 3 dimensions, but in reality, these could be thousands of dimensions, which is insane. So yeah, 32 is not just these 3, it spans on forever. And same with the rest of these. But yeah, that's how these embedding models actually give meaning to the words, just based on pre-trained token IDs. Did I miss anything? Yeah. Advanced embedding topic. So embeddings can also be measured by adding and subtracting from each other. And we're going to be doing a live demonstration of this to fully understand what this means. But basically it's like, if you have 2 sets of words that are quite similar in meaning, the difference between those coordinates is basically equal to the difference in those coordinates for that second pair. So you have lion minus lioness equals cat minus kitten, right? Lion, cat, same thing. Lioness, kitten, same thing. So the difference between those vectors is basically going to be the same. So yeah, we basically have a little bit of math here, kind of to illustrate that. So we have this vector, which is lion to lioness, is about 0.10. And obviously these are going to be way higher than 3 dimensions. And that's equal to the vector kitten cat. And yeah, this is kind of what the demonstration is. So you have the word lion, lioness, and that arrow is pretty much that difference, that vector. And then we add the word cat, great. And then in order to add the word kitten, what these AI models do is it looks at that difference between lion and lioness, because it's quite similar in meaning as to cat and kitten. And it basically adds the word kitten based on the difference between lion and lioness, if that makes sense. So that's another trick that these LLMs use. Oh yeah, terribly forgive me, I'm sick, but I hope you understand how this makes sense and how these AI models basically add or understand the semantic meaning between different words. And this is just one of the techniques that it uses to do that. Thank you, and subscribe for more. That's great. So yeah, if you enjoyed this and you now understand a lot more about LLMs, how it actually gives meaning to these words, how you're able to now troubleshoot if the LLMs are giving you a bad response, you can probably go into the prompt and be like, hey, it's probably not understanding my instructions or my behaviors well enough. And you can now just get like a way better understanding of where these AIs get all their information from and get all their understanding from. Oh my God, I'm terribly sick. But yeah, thank you so much if you watched this far and you got something valuable out of it. Please let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to make more of this educational style video. This one was a little shorter than expected, but yeah. Feel free if you're a business owner or you're someone who's trying to look into getting into the AI space, book a call with me down below, check out our website, and let's see how we can help you accelerate your AI ventures moving forward. Thank you so much, and yeah, take care.